Friendo Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome back to Going In Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to right here at youtube.com/Steve and Larson. Available wherever podcasts can be found. Of course, taped live at Twitch, twitch.tv/Steve and Larson. Back at you with another Thursday news video. So much news.
You know, the way things are going in the wrestling world, this might be a more regular occurrence.
I agree with you. A lot going on. I mean, just coming out of Dynamite last night, there were multiple stories about suspensions, about hot heat, people hiding in bathrooms. On the WWE side of this, here's one thing I didn't even notice in your notes here: tampering allegations against WWE.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot going on. But of course, first up, we're still shocked / celebrating the dominant Jon Moxley squash win over CM Punk during last night's Dynamite. It was wildly entertaining. It was very satisfying. It's like one of those Death Wish movies. But we were left wondering, that's what my grandpa always used to say. That's not coming. That's my grandpa saying, oh, I love those Death Wish movies. I'm like, Grandpa, those are horrible movies. Anyways, so PW Insider, because we were wondering last night, who the hell is Mox going to squash it all out now? Because at this point, if it's a squash, that's the only believable outcome for any Mox match is a squash. PW Insider is reporting that the current plan is for Jon Moxley and CM Punk to rematch at All Out September 4th in Chicago. So whatever went down last night was part of whatever the plan is to get them to Chicago. I don't know if this was planned to line up, but Cleveland, where Punk got destroyed by Moxley, who is close enough to his hometown last night. He's from Cincinnati, but it's kind of close. Is the same city he lost his UFC debut in, and also the city he walked out of WWE in January 2014. Dave Meltzer also mentioned on the latest Wrestling Observer Radio that Punk versus Mox is still slated to main event All Out. So Larson,
I've been waving to try and get your attention. There was supposed to be reading this.
Sorry, I had my eyes on the notes and it was covering your face. I'm sorry.
How dare you? I have something very important to say.
What do you have to say?
How is CM Punk supposed to wrestle a match, much less competitive match, when he's only got 1 foot, apparently?
I put that awesome video of you saying that last night on Twitter.
I know, because here's the thing. Mox's victory last night, I understand they had an injury angle, or Punk injured his other foot.
Mm-hmm.
The whole he came back too soon story. Mm-hmm. Mox won in such dominant fashion.
Yeah.
The only reason I could see to have this rematch in Chicago is for Punk to overcome the odds in Chicago and get the huge win in front of the hometown and the huge ovation and all that. Problem is, Mox, as mentioned, dominated on Dynamite.
Yeah.
Dominated.
Yeah.
Punk's foot ain't healing up in a matter of 10 days.
There's only see, you say that and I agree. There's only, and this is a ballsy move from AEW, right? There is only one possible outcome. The only way CM Punk can beat Jon Moxley,
turns heel.
If he goes bad guy, he's got to bring everything and this dude has got to steal Drew McIntyre's sword and hope that he doesn't break it over Jon Moxley, who I think would actually be swordproof. I think Jon Moxley in his DNA at this point is bulletproof. CM Punk could get a gun and bring it and try to shoot Mox, but there's no guarantee Mox won't just eat those bullets.
Oh, he would. He would eat them and then laugh.
He'd laugh. He'd spit him back out at Punk.
And it'd be believable.
And it would be absolutely believable.
Mox is that convincing now. That's the issue. That's the only way out. And then Punk will have to cut every corner.
Yeah.
15 low blows. Go to sleep on like a boulder or something like that.
He would need so you remember those old medieval weapons, the mace?
I recall, yes.
If you take like the ball part of the mace with the spikes on it, and you fashion a knee pad, and he has to replace his knee with
mace ball. With the mace ball, yeah. He no longer has knee; he has mace ball.
He'd call that Mace Warner, and he'd drop a GTS, like several even at that point.
Yeah, it would take
on Mox.
several. Many.
No, you're right. Mox is so powered up, but I do think when I go back to saying, taking that into the Chicago crowd, number one, there, Chicago crowd known for being a pretty smart town, savvy town, wrestling friendly town. They love that kind of stuff. They would cheer the shit out of that, by the way, CM Punk going heel. Because that's sort of what they do. It's that sort of ECW 11 type crowd where it's like, hey, whatever it takes to beat Mox, it doesn't matter if you're heel. Now, if they bring in some sort of thing where maybe Punk and MJF, maybe MJF shows up and helps them and they have an unholy alliance, which wouldn't make any sense story-wise. But I mean, Punk wouldn't, he's going to need some help. Like, he can cut every corner, but this is Mox. He's a juggernaut. And for this to make any sense whatsoever, Punk is going to need some help as a bad guy.
Speaking of help, I'll toss this out there. I don't think it's going to happen because FTR is wildly popular right now.
Yeah.
They've made it. FTR and Punk have made it pretty known. They're friends.
They're good buds.
Punk's last match hurt his foot, was a trios match. He was teaming with FTR.
Yeah.
Of course, FTR, they're still buddies with Wardlow.
Yeah.
You could have FTR. I don't think it's going to happen because Wardlow and FTR, they're all faces.
No, look, this could be a good story. I saw somebody suggest this on Twitter. What if Punk takes over? What if Punk takes over the faction that MJF started?
Yeah, Pinnacle. Yeah, he takes over Pinnacle. Yeah.
But I kind of like this because what if early in the card, you've got FTR and Wardlow buddies, and they beat Lethal and the Motor City Machine Guns because that's the match there. And then later in the card, FTR helped Punk beat Mox, and that leaves Wardlow like, what is happening right now? Why are you doing this? You're acting like dicks. Punk is the guy who showed me up back when I was part of the Pinnacle and MJF was using me against him. Although on the other hand, there was also that moment between Punk and Wardlow where Wardlow basically helped Punk beat MJF. So there is story you can mine there, and I think you could tell a really fascinating story there. And I think all that's pretty good. But you're gonna need Punk to bring everything he has, and if that's 3 other guys or 2 other guys, you can make it believable.
To make it believable at this point, you need to do everything we've talked about.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
You need the mace knee.
Yeah.
You need Pinnacle.
Yeah.
All of it.
Maybe
you need it
fix Mox's brakes a couple days before, so he gets into a nasty car accident.
I mean, yeah, it's gonna take something to that level. Yeah,
you hire Toonces as his driver.
Piano falling from the sky. I don't know.
Acme Dynamite. Hey, which
there we go.
Fits into TNT Dynamite. Yeah,
it's true. That's true.
AEW Dynamite.
So
you got to do a lot, but I think honestly, I think they can get there. I think they can tell something pretty compelling. I think they've used the apparently real idea that things aren't all rosy backstage at AEW to plant some pretty interesting seeds, and I think they can sort of harness this chaos and tell something pretty compelling. But I mean, it's sort of away from the Hangman. I wouldn't involve Hangman in all this stuff because that's, as we're about to talk about, I don't know if mixing that level of real personal animosity with storylines
is a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea. If a Punk heel turn is in the works for leading to his win, that's the only way they can do it. If they're trying to have a feel-good moment with babyface Punk,
that's a terrible
overcoming
idea.
Odds against Mox, terrible idea.
That's a terrible,
not believable.
Idea. That's
not
awesome.
believable.
Awful.
Not believable.
I don't think that. I think Punk would probably embrace the idea of, hey, let me be a bad guy. Chicago would eat it up, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, we'll see.
I get the feeling that this can't be the kind of thing like, you and I, one of the biggest examples that I could think of is Wyatt and Orton in their lead up to WrestleMania years ago. Not the more recent Fiend one, but the one before that.
The really crap match, yeah.
Yeah, and they were telling a pretty compelling story leading into it, but the entire time you and I are both like, man, this is just going to end up with boring face Orton as opposed to something more interesting, and that's the way they went. I hope that they don't go that route. I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to aim for something better here, man.
I hope we don't get boring face or Punk overcoming the odds here because it's gonna be really deflating.
He needs to cut every corner and bring a sword.
Yeah, all that sword, mace knee, FTR,
robot arm. Yeah.
Just that's 5 things minimum.
A RoboCop suit of armor. Anyways, let's talk about, we alluded to this, backstage heat and AEW chaos. Just chaos back there.
Yeah, it seems like it's wild times backstage in AEW, man.
Wild West, man.
Several people on Twitter last night. You know that Attitude Era WWE commercial where they're walking through the ESPN off, or the no, it's the Attitude commercial.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
And like people getting thrown through windows.
The Super Bowl commercial, yeah.
Yeah, that one. Sorry, I thought it was the ESPN one, but no, it was just the Super Bowl commercial.
So you want Tony Khan saying, "Get it"?
Yeah, backstage at an AEW show. So after last night's Dynamite, Voices of Wrestling reported on an altercation that supposedly happened between Eddie Kingston and Sammy Guevara, which possibly led to Kingston getting suspended. Fightful Select was able to confirm that an altercation did take place and that Kingston was, quote, briefly suspended by the company. Fightful reports that Sammy hadn't cleared the content of a promo with Eddie in advance of dropping said promo in advance of their match at All Out. Then Sammy dropped said promo and referred to Kingston as a, quote, fat piece of shit.
Oh, wow.
Fightful adds that Kingston, who was slated to win their bout at All Out, felt the line, quote, buried the match if a fat piece of shit beat Sammy Guevara. The promo was ultimately cut from the broadcast. I'm guessing this was for Rampage. But Kingston was still frustrated with how, quote, Sammy Guevara followed up with this after being perceived as difficult working with Scorpio Sky, Ethan Page, and Sanjay Dutt in the months prior. And according to Fightful, Eddie then yelled at Guevara. Sammy responded with a smile, and then Eddie pie-face Sammy, which led to Kingston being suspended for 2 weeks. So Fightful reached out to Eddie Kingston for comment, and Eddie responded, quote, I was wrong, that is all, but didn't confirm the altercation. PW Insider also confirmed there was an altercation, and also reached out to Eddie for comment. Kingston responded, quote, you know the truth. I wouldn't lie. I was wrong for being unprofessional. That is the blind fact. He did what he did, and the public can judge that, but I know for a fact I was wrong.
Awesome for Eddie stepping up and saying, hey, I was in the wrong here. No matter how much of us would have loved to have seen that.
I mean, also in Fightful's report, they said that Eddie asked to work for Sammy when a lot of people weren't asking to work with Sammy.
Yeah. It is, you can't do, especially being a veteran like Eddie Kingston, you can't go right around pie facing guys no matter how much you'd want to. That being said, Sammy has kind of a history of being, he wasn't he like on a plane on the way. This was a report. He was on a plane on the way to Impact taping, and he was like, "I don't want to do anything that you guys are saying." And then it was turned around. And I mean, who knows if that was how much of that was true or not. But that was out there. It honestly, and then talking about we're about to talk about the Thunder Rosa stuff. It feels like there are things that in AEW that just need to be, I don't know, sorted out. Maybe it's kind of interesting that this stuff is happening now.
I wonder if this is one of because the closest analogy I could think of, and it's not even that close of an analogy, but Booker T recently brought it up, was WCW.
Conan brought the same thing.
Yes, exactly. Where, to the credit of AEW, they give the talent a lot of flexibility and input into their creative.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And there seems to be a lot of freedom involved in that, not a lot of structure.
Yeah.
But the downside of not having structure potentially is a lack of accountability. In instances where someone's acting out of line, irritating the locker room, seemingly maybe the recent kind of reshuffling in the talent relations department will hopefully change that. But if someone is getting a lot of heat in the locker room for whatever reason, seemingly there's not much to be done about it.
Mm-hmm, yeah. No,
because there seemingly isn't a structure, or hasn't been the structure in place to deal with that type of stuff.
There needs to be more accountability. There needs to be, you need to have, and I'm not advocating for wrestlers' court, but certainly locker room leadership. Yeah. And there does need to be, even seemingly amongst the wrestlers, there should be accountability, but certainly for management, there should be accountability. Yes. And that's one thing seemingly in the WWE, by and large, you've gotten. And that was either, because, well, back in the day it was The Undertaker, but more recently we've heard that Roman Reigns is a hell of a locker room leader. There's been a number of people. Drew McIntyre, I think, has been also noted as a locker room leader. Mm-hmm. But also while Vince is there, it's sort of like one of those things where it's like, the buck really does stop with Vince, and Vince sort of doesn't, while he was there, wouldn't put up with a lot of that shit, especially in recent years.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does feel like you need some of that stuff in AEW. You have to wonder, of course, how much of that, Cody Rhodes filled that role. And now with him being gone, of course, I mean, I can't suggest this enough. Cody leaves and what happens? It all falls apart. I say that tongue-in-cheek.
I will.
Relax.
You do say that tongue-in-cheek, especially regarding the creative aspect of things. But I guess it was noted that Cody was someone that people went to talk to about things. Yeah. So it's entirely possible that, yes, you probably overstated his contribution in the creative department. But in terms of a leadership role, it's entirely possible that's something he filled backstage that is now missing.
Yeah. And yeah.
Let's take a quick break here. Get a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. So, Steve.
Yeah.
You know me. I'm a shoe guy. I like my shoes.
Yes, true.
So I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
How well do you think I'd take care of my shoes if I had to keep the same pair of shoes, talking one pair of shoes, for the rest of my life?
Wow, for the rest of your life?
Rest of my life.
This is pure speculation on my part, but I think you'd take excellent care of them.
That'd be correct. I would take excellent. Yeah, of course I'd take great care of them.
Right.
Yeah, one pair of shoes.
Of course, one.
Of course. We only get one brain, and a lot of us don't treat it with that same level of care. See, how we care for our brains and our minds can affect how we experience life.
That's absolutely true. And there are plenty of ways you can support your brain health. You could learn a new language or take lots of power naps like I do. Or you could try BetterHelp online therapy.
There was a point in my life where I was dealing with severe anxiety, and rather than treat my mental health like the old beat-up pair of shoes I wear for yard work, I looked for some help. And having gone through the process of trying to find a therapist, I know how difficult it can be to find the right person to talk to. But BetterHelp Online Therapy makes that process much more convenient by offering video, phone, and even live chat therapy sessions.
BetterHelp can get you matched up with a therapist in less than 48 hours, and it's much more affordable than in-person therapy. And right now, Going In Raw listeners can get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/raw. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/raw. So let's talk about more AEW issues backstage. Let's talk about Thunder Rosa. So it was announced last night on Dynamite that due to an injury, she would be unable to defend the AEW Women's Championship at All Out. PW Insider has some details on her injury, reporting PWInsider.com has confirmed the nature of Thunder Rosa's injury is a disc issue in her back. That's not fun. We are told it was something she has been trying to work through of late. There's no word on a timetable for her return. Now, Thunder Rosa was also the subject of rumors last night after Dynamite with Voices of Wrestling, reporting that Rosa had heat with Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. Fightful Select was able to confirm that Baker and Rosa, quote, can't stand each other, but have tried to remain professional on open to working with each other. Fightful adds that Hayter also has heat with Rosa stemming from a broken nose she suffered in a match against Thunder Rosa. According to Fightful, much of the heat on Rosa has emerged from her working stiff in the ring. One thing that end quote. One thing that, again, maybe needs to be tampered down a little bit is this idea, and Punk has referenced this multiple times, that AEW is willing to sort of take Meltzer's reports, Fightful's reports, and reference that kind of stuff on camera, on cable TV. And the one notable thing is when Thunderstorm had an interview that was interrupted by Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter, and Britt Baker busts out a sandbag. Yeah. Now, sandbagging in wrestling is when somebody sort of dead weights.
Thunder Rosa has a shirt that says sandbagging since, I don't know what year.
Which was sort of a response to that. And look, I get if all parties are on board with this, hey, we can make some money off of a t-shirt, we can reference it. I don't know if that's the way to go. If her performance in the ring is something that is the focal point of real life animosity, and granted, they might try to stay professional, but bringing that up on TV and as sort of a wink and a nod, and even, I mean, it wasn't even like that hadn't even been reported on in terms of like, oh, there's heat between these two. What's the point of bringing this up? What's the point of making this an issue, even if then Thunder Rosa is going to make a t-shirt in response. It's too, I don't know, man. It's a little too inside.
It is. It's too self-referential.
When Bischoff brings up a couple months ago, hey, you need to be thinking about the casual fans and not necessarily the hardcores. I don't know, like the context that he was talking about might not be as valid, but when I think of that, I think of this kind of stuff. Like, you don't need to be bringing up real life shit when it relates to, Brock Lesnar there was a report that Brock Lesnar had pitched to Vince McMahon, hey, stop letting wrestlers refer to this stuff as performances. Yeah. Because these are supposed to be fights. These are supposed to be real fights that you're presenting as a story, right? Mm-hmm. They're not supposed to be referencing the performance of it. Even though, like, when you talk about combat sports, you, I guess, can talk about somebody's performance. Well, I don't know. Do they do that in MMA? Do they?
Yeah, they'll talk about what an incredible performance by
Anderson Silva or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how much you want to be referencing the fact that sandbagging is basically, not going along with the performance of a match, of a fictional match.
Yeah.
Is my point. So I don't know, man. I don't know if that just adds fuel to the fire. I'm not there backstage, but it stands to reason that maybe bringing up real life stuff as part of a story has its limits, maybe, is my point.
Yeah, and I think, too, or wonder, too, that if referencing these backstage details that may or may not be creating animosity between wrestlers, like I guess some people might like it because, oh, look at they're referencing real life stuff. Ooh, the work shoot type stuff. At the same time, especially like in the Kingston case here, seemingly with Punk and Hangman, this stuff is sometimes talked about in advance. And if that kind of stuff happens, is that going to increase the animosity between the wrestlers? And now, whenever I see this type of stuff that references real life and or backstage stuff, I'm gonna think, okay, was this pre-approved?
Yeah.
Is this gonna upset somebody even more that this was done? And the odds of that reference playing to a broad market, whether not even reference to what Bischoff is talking about, even a broad audience in AEW.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how many people keep up with the news and have heard about the sandbagging stuff with Thunder Rosa. So, like, Britt hands Thunder Rosa a sandbag, and what percentage of the audience is like, what does that mean?
Dude, I keep up with this shit, and I was even confused by the sandbag. I'm like, oh, is she saying that she sandbagged in a match? Is that what she's saying? And then I'm just thrown off. I'm not thinking about, oh, what a cool promo she just dropped. I'm just thinking, what is that even supposed to mean? Why are you wink? Don't wink. I don't know what that means. I'm not there backstage. I don't have anybody backstage telling me, oh, they say she sandbagged. You know what I love? A great way to shout out hardcores is when Punk makes reference to his Ring of Honor past. When he's wearing the old Ring of Honor basketball shorts, like, oh, that's cool. Like, that's a healthy way to shout out the hardcores who can then get on Twitter and be like, hey, look at this cool historical reference here.
Well, and it's not just a reference in some cases, but it's actually enhancing the story being told, referencing things in the past. And yes, 1,000%. If you're dropping little Easter eggs or references to the things that'll actually enhance the story.
Yeah.
Rather than just trying to pop a few people for making a joke about something they read online.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like, I'd much rather have something included that's actually going to enhance the story and add depth to the story being told.
One thing is something that you think Vince Russo would do. And the other thing is just is a cool shout out to history. And like you said,
well, I mean, it's
adding
good storytelling.
To the layers of story.
Good storytelling. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's talk about more chaos in AEW, Steve. So Fightful Select yesterday reported about a talent meeting that Tony Khan held backstage. PW Insider has some details. Tony Khan apparently opened this meeting discussing new vice presidents, town relations, apparently the restructuring that had been reported on a couple weeks back. And then also made reference to the quote, this is PW Insider's terms here, says, quote, the fact that there's been some lines tossed from WB circles towards AEW contracted talents for obvious reasons, not something AEW is happy about, leading to him telling the crew that was Mega Parak had emailed Nick Khan and Stephanie McMahon to warn them not to tamper with talent. And then today, Chris Jericho on Twitter alluded to he might have been one of the people contacted by WWE.
Yeah, somebody's mentioned apparently on Twitter Sami Zayn and Kevin
Owens did a faction with Chris Jericho.
Yeah, and Jericho said, that was there was something alluded there.
He said some of the higher ups in WWE maybe wanted that to happen sooner rather than later. Hashtag tampering.
There's not a lot of illusion there, is there?
No, there's not a whole lot of ambiguity.
That's right.
Both Pat Buck and Tony Schiavone, who now have roles in the talent relations department, talked about their new responsibilities in those roles. And then apparently Jericho gave a, quote, rally the troops type speech. Mm-hmm. And then the Young Bucks says specifically here, Matt Jackson, let everybody know, doors open if you want to talk. You can come talk to us. And then PW Insider here adds, quote, at this point, Kenny Omega spoke and was the harshest towards the locker room. What we are told by some came off as tough love, by others as really heavy-handed. Some saw this as Omega trying to light a fire under the roster, and others felt differently. After Omega finished speaking, Mega Parek spoke on what was described to PW Insider as some legal-related things.
Don't be talking with WWE people if you're under contract. Apparently, they sent notice to WWE's legal team. Hey, stop doing that. Stop trying to tamper. I was watching a little bit of Wrestling Observer today on the Twitch, and Alvarez was talking about the rumors from a couple of years ago. There was some tampering issues between WWE and Ring of Honor. Yeah. And he went on to say that he looked into it further, and that was actually unfounded. Like, that apparently wasn't actually happening at the time, which was kind of interesting. I thought there was something that was actually on record about that, but
did Ring of Honor issue like a cease and desist or something like that?
I thought that's what the thing was, but Alvarez says apparently there was nothing to it. So whatever that means. But yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. I guess you can dip your toe into the tampering waters and see how far you can put your foot in, and then before you get clapped back, before Chris Jericho snitches on you.
Yeah, I know.
So we found out who the snitch was. Apparently,
yeah, I guess so.
Break the walls down. Not anytime soon, apparently.
Okay, so this is from Heel by Nature. It says here, Ring of Honor threatened to sue WWE in 2017 after WWE were contacting talent while under contract.
Was there anything like legally sort of in the record about that?
No, I don't guess so, other than a threat from Ring of Honor that they might sue. Says here, WWE pulled many offers from ROH talent, delayed offers for others, and waited several months after their contract expires, included Bobby Fish, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Dijak.
Well, in any event, sounds like WWE's looking for talent, and in fact, Triple H has been bringing back a lot of people to WWE: Dakota Kai, Dexter Lumis, Karrion Kross, Johnny Gargano, etc., etc. And Andrew Zarian has reported that Uncle Paul might be looking to bring in a former NXT name, Bronson Reed. Yeah. Zarian stated on the latest episode of We're Live, Pal, and these transcripts come to you via WrestlingNews.co. He said this: I've heard one name over the last few weeks, and that's Jonah. Great G1. I talked to a friend over there casually in Connecticut. He's a name. Bronson Reed got the shit end of the stick with his positioning. He's very good. He has the size. He has this awesome entrance with the background. I don't know him at all personally. I don't know of anything behind the scenes that happened, anything beyond that, but I can tell you there are people very interested in him because of his talent, his performance in the G1. He's a name that people are interested in. I don't know what his deal is, but he has come up as a name that I've heard.
Jonah spoke about his deal. He's got a deal. He didn't say the nature of the deal with New Japan. Mm-hmm. But he also said it gives him the flexibility to work elsewhere. I doubt elsewhere means WWE.
The independent, dates that WWE wants him to work.
Yes, exactly. But I don't know if it's like, hey, for X number of months, you're guaranteed this many appearances at this rate. Don't know the nature of the deal. Mm-hmm. So not going to speculate on it.
Yeah.
Back when we did the video of 10 wrestlers Triple H should bring back, Bronson Reed was on there.
Absolutely.
Former North American champion. He had tryout matches, and rather than getting called up to the main roster, he got released, and it seemed rather strange.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because he checks basically every box.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, he's terrific. He's a phenomenal talent. As Zarian said, he did have a phenomenal G1. And yeah, it is very interesting that sort of, because was he released at the same time Keith Lee was?
I believe before.
Was it before? Okay. Yeah, it's kind of interesting that the wrestlers who have sort of played it in between have found more, places between not signing with AEW, but, getting these appearance deals, perhaps sticking around and to see how WWE is going to sort itself out. I mean, I don't think anybody could predict. I think some of these guys just got lucky. Like Gargano was like, yeah, I'm just going to be a dad for a while and see how things play out, not knowing that Vince McMahon was going to basically torpedo his own legacy and career and get himself ejected from the WWE. Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
So Keith Lee was released November 4th, and then Bronson Reed was released August 6th.
Okay.
So Reed was in the same round as Bobby Fish, Mercedes Martinez, Tyler Rust. And then Keith Lee is in the group with Karrion Kross, Nia Jax, Ember Moon, Mia Yim, and a lot more.
Okay. So yeah, interesting stuff. We got a couple questions here. If you'd like to answer some questions.
Sure, let's answer some questions. Let's do it.
I'm getting there. I put it on the Steven Larson YouTube channel. By the way, we speak about our over on Friendo Club TV today. I uploaded a video where we speak about, of course, being recruited into House of Black. Steven Larson joining the House of Black. We talked about it on Overrun this week. I put it out there for free gratis if you want the entire episode. Patreon.com/Steven Larson. You can check it out there. First up, Francis Badia. Long term, was the build up for the Punk Mox match and the way it played out help or hurt AEW? He says, I feel more let down than curious since it was hyped up so much. I'll be honest with you. I thought it was awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing how they explain CM Punk getting a rematch for All Out and how he can even attempt to compete with the monster known as Mox.
I mean, it seems an impossible task for Punk, short of him cheating often and often and a lot. Both those things. It has to be often. It has to be a lot. Yeah. It seems like a basically impossible task for Punk.
Mushi Senpai says, how do you guys feel about AEW's current lineup of champions? He says, I'm personally not feeling it beyond Mox. Mox is at his peak, but Wardlow's doing nothing as TNT champion. Swerve in Our Glory feels misplaced, and Rosa having to have an interim. And he doesn't mention, he says, I didn't mention Cargill. She's pretty solid as well. I think Jade needs to be on Dynamite more often. She really should be. I mean, she's sort of their A champion, but she's just on Rampage a lot. So they need to put her. I think she's a dominant champion who should be on Dynamite. They should unify those titles, to be honest with you.
Now is the perfect opportunity to do it, too.
It really is. I actually really love Swerve in Our Glory, and I think they're going to be doing a lot better things coming up shortly. I do feel like they need to do more with Wardlow as TNT champion. They need to find a way to capture what he had going about 6 months ago.
Yeah, there's no reason he should be in a six-man tag match on the pay-per-view. He should be defending that title. He should be.
I agree. I totally agree.
Unless they decide to make this match at a All Out, some sort of winner take all, or FTR puts up like the Ring of Honor belts or something like that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And Wardlow puts up the TNT title.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that he's not defending the title on pay-per-view is pretty ridiculous. Going back to Jade, I understand why they don't have her wrestle more often, because it's an event when she wrestles.
Yeah, right.
And then you tune in because it's an event when she wrestles, but she should be on TV every week.
Yeah, I agree.
Advancing her story. The fact that she's not on TV every week is ridiculous.
Yeah. Let's see here. Jason Lewis says, would you guys like to see Triple H adjust the precision of go-home math? I think that we're going to see a lot more brawls as go-home math where nobody has the upper hand.
Yeah.
But I get the feeling that, I don't think it's going to be as cut and dry anymore. I think he's going to tell more interesting ways to send us into a pay-per-view wondering what's going to happen.
Yeah. Ideally, yes. Bop here asks, should AEW just scrap their rankings? They don't give importance to it like they I think used to.
No, I like the rankings. I think it's a good way. I think that they're not held down by them, and it's a way to say, hey, this is what Swerve and Our Glory's been doing. You guys are ranked. You know, it doesn't matter if you're ranked 1 or 5. You're ranked. You want a shot, you got a shot. If you're ranked in the top 5, it puts you in the conversation for a shot, and that is justification for a story.
Yeah. I just wished it was they did that more outside the tag division. That's seemingly the only place where they have those conversations.
I do also wish that they would separate the rankings per title, not just men's and women's.
I agreed.
Because it's like, you know, right now 3 of the top 5 ranked men's are all TNT title guys.
Yeah. Like they should have it should be rankings, but based on like strength of schedule, strength of competition, should elevate you, like have 2 tiers or something like that. I don't know.
Blake Whitehouse says, starts his question with the Ilya Dragunov injury being kayfabe. I had not heard that.
I had not heard that either.
He says, do you think
it looked like he jacked up his ankle. So
his ankle looked fucked up. Yeah. And I get the feeling that happened before they realized that they were going to collapse NXT UK, but I could be wrong about that.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Because that was shot like early July.
That was shot a long time ago, yeah. Here's a good question. Sean Chan says, if I have a friend who has never seen a wrestling show before but is interested, what match do I show them? He says the question was inspired by that terrific trios match last night. I would give him something simple, like a Walter match. You know, something where it's like it's perfectly understandable. Oh, you've got this giant beast of a person, like an early Walter match. A couple of years ago, Walter match.
Well, have like Walter versus Ilya, the first one.
Yeah.
Because ideally, you want to have them watch a match that doesn't have a ton of backstory necessary that you have to know to appreciate the nuances of the bout. You know?
Yeah, sure.
Like one, for Walter Ilya one, for example, short recap package. I'm sure they had during the show, and then you watch the match, and you see the story develop, and then what Ilya's story is going forward based on what happens in that bout.
Yeah. Tristan A says, Eddie's still our guy, right? Even more than before.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. Let's see here. This is a great question. I always love Honor No More questions. Noon Mountain says, is there a worse faction currently in all of wrestling than Honor No More? No, of course not. They're fodder for much entertainment for us, because our weekly Honor No More rundowns are hilarious.
I'm trying to think if there's a faction worse. Are the wingmen still like actually a thing?
So you put the wingmen in against Honor No More. I think it's a good 75% chance that Honor No More works. That's a good point.
Yeah, Honor No More wins that. Yeah.
But wingmen are also, like, when you say worst, like in terms of, okay, power rankings, Honor No More is better than the wingmen, but Honor No More should be a lot better than this shouldn't even be a question. It shouldn't be a question. The fact that they are so underwhelming as a faction, where the wingmen arguably might exceed expectations.
You know what? If Ed Edwards just appreciated PCO for who he is, there'd be no drama in Honor No More. Maybe things would run a lot more smoothly.
You're probably right.
But he doesn't. He wants PCO to be someone he's not.
Yeah. Brody Man Hennessy says, do you guys think the last-minute nature of All Out booking this year will ultimately hurt the buy rate? I'll believe it when I see it. AEW tends to outperform their own buy rates, and there's a lot of controversy heading into this year's All Out, and that
might get eyeballs on it. Yep.
That generally spells, success in the buy rate.
Speaking of eyeballs, we got ratings in for Dynamite last night.
It had to have crossed 1 million.
Yeah, 1.049 million is according here to this is on Wrestling Observer.
Okay.
Up about 10%, and then 0.34 in the all important. No number matters other than this one. 18 to 49 demo.
Absolutely. It is
up about 13%.
The gold standard of numbers. You can take the Fibonacci sequence. give me the 18 to 49. Who needs pi when you have the 18 to 49 is what I say.
Exactly.
Anyways, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it. Tonight, Smash Zone, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/Steven Larson. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that notify bell if you're listening in the audio realm. Leave us a rating, review, or a comment. Till next time, we'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.